Making a good sci-fi short film with high production value requires a lot of money. And you guessed it, I didn't have a lot. $300. Is it possible to make a cinematic, epic sci-fi short film with this budget? Well, let me tell you a story. I had this idea 4 years ago and decided to call it The Sin. It went online in Russia 3 years ago, but you can watch it right now by clicking the first link in the description. Alright, let's start with the cheapest. Okay, it's actually free. Piece of paper. Or a smartphone for that matter. So I started making first drafts of a story, nothing specific. Still, I knew for sure that this film's gonna be about diving someone into the memories. And it also had to be a love-driven story. When I plan a film, the first thing I do, I look through a lot of reference images that reflect familiar tone and atmosphere. After that, I listen to a lot of tracks, like a lot, usually on Artlist or Epidemic Sound. That helps me visualize the story much better. Locations played a massive role in the film. It was essential for me that every single detail that appears on the screen tells the audience something more about the characters or the story. At the same time, keep it in mind that we have just $300 in our pockets. So you guessed it, it was quite a problem. There are 6 locations that we had to find. Interrogation room, place where the scientists do their thing, park with no people or at least a few people, living room, and abandoned building. Parts of these locations had to be dark, those are real-life scenes, and others had to be bright for the memory scenes. It clearly shows the contrast between real life, how depressed he is, and his memories, which are something pleasing and positive for him. Except for the scenes in the abandoned building. It's some sort of a gateway that stands between real life and memories. So let's move to our first 2 locations. They needed this gloomy atmosphere with minimal but enough light for creating this cinematic sci-fi look. At first I asked my friends for a basement and found this school basement. As you may see, it would have been a bad idea. Nothing futuristic about this place at all, it's sweltering down there and not a lot of space to walk around. However, the basement was the perfect place for the final video message. I connected with my friends from a local studio. They were very kind and allowed us to shoot for a full 24 hours for a perfect price. Still, it was the most significant part of the entire budget, but it definitely worth it. This studio was very spacious, so we decided to film 2 scenes in this one place. Of course, we had to build everything from scratch. The entrance, big window on the opposite side, concrete wall with a nice texture on the left, another great textured wall right next to the window, and the other 2 walls were too futuristic, they didn't fit our story, so we had to hide them. We decided to film the interrogation scene in the left part of the room, close to the window. Table. It was available, so it's free. Let's place it here, one of the scientists stands here, and the right part of the space we covered with greenhouse film that I bought pretty cheap in hardware store, even though it looks far more straightforward than it was. We came here at 8 AM. The first 2 hours went for all the preparation. The top lighting was too dark, so we had to replace it with another light. I took this construction LED light for $20 and mounted the light right to the ceiling. It was the best solution for us. Of course, in most cases, consider using a stand to mount a light like this. Construction light isn't built for videos, so you may also notice a green tint. However, we use just them, so it's an easy fix. Just move a tint slider when color correcting your image. Light is coming from above, bounce off the table, which gives a slight feel on the faces. I turned on the warm light on the background for more depth in the shot. At 10 AM, we started filming. We tried our best to stick to the plan, but as always, something goes wrong, time goes by, and you find yourself late for a couple of hours. It was 4 PM already, but we haven't yet prepared for the second scene, so we started rushing and building the next set. As before, I mounted the construction light to the ceiling. For some color contrast, I used table light. And I also placed a fluorescent light on the ground behind the greenhouse film. That helped to create a lot of depth. So 4 lights in total: top light, warm table light, and 2 fluorescent lights from both sides. Also, we placed the table with 3 monitors and a green screen on them. And also all the medical stuff around, including this DIY helmet. How I made this helmet is a whole other Initially, I wanted to rent this thing that looks very cool and futuristic, but it was tough to find, even something like this wasn't available. So I decided to make one myself out of the thin wires. I twisted them and here you go, DIY medical helmet. And of course, if you know even something about how this medical stuff works, you can understand really fast that it's just a gimmick and wouldn't work in real life. So my job is to hide about 70% of all this medical gear. You can see that something complicated is going on, but don't think about the fact that it's just a gimmick as much. Right after we finished constructing this set, we began to start filming. We kept on filming till 1 AM, very exhausted and sleepy. We haven't ate for the entire day, maybe just a couple of hot dogs or something. Our backs were dying. We almost finished filming this scene, literally one small dialogue and a few shots for the finale. But I decided that it will be much better to sleep for a while because staying healthy is much more important than getting a perfect shot, in my opinion. You can always come and reshoot this, but you can't restore your health. So we took a nap for a few hours and woke up at 7 AM. We had just 2 hours to finish the whole thing from that time because we had to leave the studio at 9 AM. Even though we haven't slept much, the shots went out pretty well. And we finished our day just in time, 24 hours in total. The third location is a park with no people. At least let's hope for it. Here in St. Petersburg we have a lot of parks, but the big tree is quite a problem. After walking around a few parks we found this island with this tree. It is not exactly what I wanted, but with a little bit of compositing, it looks kinda beautiful. And we had a permission to shoot there for free. And it's cool how very ordinary places can look very unreal and dreamy just by placing your camera on the right angle. Always experiment with your locations, even if it's the most usual place on this planet, you can always find something interesting. The next location is the living room. Luckily, our friends had an empty apartment. Even though it's free, looking at this room for the first time, I was kinda disappointed. First of all, the room was tiny. There's not much space to move around. The place looks big in camera because of the wide-angle lens, but in reality, just a few steps needed to move from one wall to another. And it was a problem when I tried to make long tracking shots recording the audio at the same time. And I wanted to see this room filled with sunlight, but as you know already, I always want something that doesn't exist, right as the sun in our city. So I decided to use this stand with warm construction light on it to fake the sunlight. But the stand was visible almost in every shot of this scene, so I had to paint it out using a rotobrush tool. We started filming this scene as a chronological sequence. And the main idea of this scene is to show how the main character starts to recognize the environment. So I wanted the objects to appear one by one as the main character moves through the scene. Initially, I imagined this scene in a long tracking shot, but later I realized that the room was too small for it, so I decided to split the scene into 3 shots. First shot, clock and calendar, second shot, pictures on the wall, and third shot, TV and all the painting stuff. Sounds simple, but we spent the entire day to make this plan come to life. At this location, we also needed to film the dark dramatic scene with lightning and police lights. To fake the lightning, we placed a couple of construction lights that we used before and wiggled them really fast. Police lights were faked by constantly changing blue and red backgrounds on our laptop. That's it. Next up, abandoned building. We also had a permission to shoot there for free. First off, the transition scene from Bright Memories. It took us a few shots to get it right. The main issue with this location is a lot of graffiti on the walls, which meant only one thing: rotoscoping. I had to paint them out literally in every shot. See these bricks? Well, I see a lot of pain. All the flying photos were edited in post using 3D plane models and 3D tracking in After Effects. Except this shot. Only here we use the real photo. Because he interacts with the photo, it had to be real. And we finished our day filming the final transition shot that initially looked like this. In general, here's the list with all the expenses. Of course, this film would not be possible without the talented people that came into making it for free. You can find all the names and links in the description of this video. You're probably wondering which camera I've used. It was 3 years ago, so I filmed the entire film on Panasonic GH3 and Tamron zoom lens. And guys, this channel is going to be not just about one film. I want to share all my filmmaking experience. So if you don't want to miss future videos, subscribe to this channel.